No team in League One have earned more points across their last 5 games than Reading Football Club. The Royals now are just 4 points off the playoff places and have us all dreaming of a very merry 2026. Welcome to episode 446, the first pod of this brand new year. We are in a stunningly rich reign of form. Ross has got his hat on.
Got my hat on. It's cold outside. Old Lang Syne. I hear it's
Cold? You're
snowing.
talking about cold, do you?
I
You want
was
to talk
just
about
going to say
cold?
this. Yeah, I hear it's snowing in the UK as well. You had a little dusting, have you?
Horrendous. Whilst we're talking about horrendous, I got some chocolate currency left over
Oh,
from
very
Christmas.
nice too.
What is the worst thing about January for you?
Knowing that I did dry January last year and knowing that I had absolutely no interest whatsoever in trying to do that again this year, I was immediately. So I already feel bad. I feel like I haven't, performed a resolution, even though I didn't make that resolution. I feel like the fact that I did it last year, I'm upset at past Ross, but now I'm upset at present Ross as well. So that's the worst thing for me this year. What's the worst thing for you about January?
Honestly,
Yeah.
it's when people share their resolutions and targets, and I'm like, didn't ask, mate. Oh, I'm not going to eat biscuits. Don't care. Literally didn't ask.
Have you ever, so you didn't set one this year, I'm guessing.
Mate, I'm perfect. It's difficult to it's difficult to improve on perfection, isn't it?
Yeah,
What's the
little
worst
bit
thing about
better.
January? I think the worst thing about January is other people complaining about January.
Okay.
Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I don't like my least favorite thing about January actually is the like TikToks or like Instagram reels or whatever you'll see of people like,
Yeah.
oh, when the new gym people come, it's like, shut up, they're trying their
Yeah.
best, right? Like,
Yeah.
especially like, and especially when it's like gym and it's like just anything. If you're doing anything, you're killing it, man.
Yeah.
Like, I
We're
take
all on the
fiber
journey.
supplements because I can't be bothered to eat enough vegetables. Like, if you're going to the gym, you're killing it. So, like,
Exactly. Look, whatever you're doing in January,
yeah.
I mean, clearly you are a Reading fan because otherwise you wouldn't be listening to us two idiots. We are. I mean, well, it's easy to say we don't know where it's come from. I think it's been brewing for a little while, whilst the season has been chaotic to say the least. But those stats that I opened with, Ross, quite incredible. 13 points
Yeah,
from a
yeah.
possible 15. I mean, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
I mean, we'll get into it, but I would say it's changed the context of the season, the last 5 weeks, and we're not going to run as hot as we have done over, the Christmas period for the rest of the year. Presumably, maybe we are. I don't know. Yeah, it just changes. It changes where you're looking. It's changed the points, it's changed the maths, and it changes kind of the outlook. And this is after the inverted commas week from hell, just a few weeks back. So
I know.
yeah, really impressive bounce back from that period for sure.
YouTube viewers, because we are on YouTube, don't worry. I'm not actually smoking. What you can see there are little wisps of steam. I've honestly, I was fine up until last night. Go back to work today, I start coughing. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
So what I've got
that's
is like a bowl of boiling hot water. You can see it there. Look, see, it's pretty simple.
Oh,
With some
okay.
essential oils in.
Okay, all right, all right.
That's what that is.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay, I have a humidifier for that, I guess, but a
Yeah,
bowl
there you go.
and
It's the
some
same
oils,
thing.
like
Yeah,
same kind of, yeah,
exactly.
that works.
So
All right. So
the
it's good
voice
to
that
hear that
we
you're
have.
looking after your voice for the
Exactly.
listeners,
Exactly.
so that they can enjoy it. And please do send your get well messages to Ben.
I know. I feel like every time I come on this pod, I'm ill at the moment. It's quite absurd. I was fine over Christmas, absolutely
Okay.
fine.
But the start of
Suddenly, I've just
December.
picked up the cough. It sounds worse than it is, really. But anyway, Happy New Year to the Amazons who lend us their track, My Blood, which you can get on all available streaming devices and physical copies as well, if you like a physical copy.
Yeah, yeah.
In all record shops, I guess.
All good stores.
And obviously to Uncle Waldy and his ZZ Said Films team who are sponsoring us. Continuing.
I'm pretty sure this was Waldy, but I was watching Royals TV obviously for the game this weekend, and it said, "Hello, Happy New Year from Voldemar. I'm enjoying it in Costa Rica."
Yeah,
So
honestly, he's a social butterfly, that man. He gets
Yeah.
everywhere.
social with the people of Costa Rica.
So if you're still there, I hope you're having a lovely time. Whatever you
With
do,
Paolo
probably something
Wancho.
arty.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hope you've had a lovely time as well. Happy New Year to all our listeners and viewers, because we are, as I said, on the video format platform YouTube. So Happy New Year to you guys. Thanks for tuning in to episode 446. I think we got that right. We're going to talk about 2 back-to-back wins at the Whitley Bowl right after this short break. Right, Ross. Oh, but just in case people are a bit concerned, there will be no preview because obviously we haven't got a game for about 14 months now.
Oh, yeah.
So there isn't an official preview. We will be back next week. We're trying to get, I say try, I haven't asked anyone yet, but we're trying to get a guest on from the club to fill that kind of void so we keep us ticking over, really. We have got a mailbag for you as well, but we're going to talk about the win against Burton Albion. Interesting one. For New Year's Day, really. I don't think you could pick, with all due respect to them, a more League One game to start the year. Sobering. I think there was about 9,000 people in the stadium, which I think was a generous estimation of how many people weren't there, rather.
It sounded a little bit quiet, but I always think that a New Year's Day game can sound a little bit quiet, to be fair.
I mean, maybe people have been on the Chinzanos and that before, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Exactly, yeah. 1 or 2 gin and tonics.
We started the year very well, very, very well. It was probably the most comfortable I've seen us play for a number of weeks, if not potentially all season, without being really troubled, and without really getting out of first gear. I think I put in my column. Ross, talk us through that, because obviously it was 2 first half goals that left us comfortable, and then nothing really happened in the second half, did it?
I mean, it was an odd kind of game whereby, like, I think that oftentimes, like, what makes a good team, I think it's both periods of attack and periods of, like, comfort in the game. And I think that's kind of, like, what was weird about the Burton game is that it seemed quite clear in the early stages that Burton were not up to a whole lot. I mean, obviously, with the way that League One's worked this year, there's been a lot of teams just not having a good start to the year, not getting their feet under them early enough. And it's allowed some of these teams that might have been considered obvious relegation candidates like Burton to kind of skate through mid-table through this part of the season when, you know, Peterborough, Blackpool, us at times have been down there propping up the rest of the division, you know, teams that probably aren't going to stay down there. And so they were only like 4 points maybe behind us, maybe 2 points behind us at the start of proceedings, and they're quite a way behind now. They looked quite a way behind us in terms of, you know, the actual quality that they had on the pitch. And, you know, I think that we probably should have had quite a few more in this game. We can certainly talk about Daniel Kyerewaa, who I think was probably the most influential player in this. You know, he had 55% of the total XG generated by Reading came from Daniel Kyerewaa in this particular game. So really good to see. But, you know, that's partly getting into, you know, the right positions, but you want him to finish as well, right? So again, it's kind of like these little things, you know, really good in one way, but can be improved upon. And I think that's what like a lot of that Burton game felt like. But because Burton were clearly not up to a whole lot, I think because the second half didn't follow the trajectory of the first half, there was kind of some thought that, you know, come on, kick on. But to a certain degree, you know, you're going to have halves like that over the course of a season, and you just kind of want to not use too much energy, you know, get through it. And I think the most important thing for me was that the second half of that game didn't feel like the second half of the Plymouth game, where Plymouth very much found a foothold and got themselves back into the game, found a way that they could attack Reading that hurt them over and over and got their goal, obviously. Came very close to getting a second goal. That just didn't look on the cards for Burton. But I think there's a legitimate conversation to be had there about, was that because Reading can control the game well, or was that because Burton are naff? So, yeah.
Well, I had to look at the stats for this one. They were quite stark, really. 19 shots in total for Reading, 4 on target, which surprised me because it felt like there was more than that on target, but, you know, clearly not. Burton 6 in total, 2 on target. So I think we did control the game. You know, only 39 more complete passes for Reading as the victors than Burton. So they had, they had a fair amount of the ball, but Burton just didn't progress up the pitch at all in any shape or form. As I've just mentioned, they had 6 total shots. I can't remember any of them really. I can't remember
Yeah.
Pereira.
Well, I remember one, and we can talk about this bit actually, because it kind of happened in the who did we beat most recently? Stockport. It happened in the Stockport game too. Porty O'Connor had a sort of odd little whiff in the first 5 minutes of the game, whereby he let a ball go in behind him, and then was bailed out by Pereira in this particular game. He was bailed out by. Let me just retry that sentence.
Yeah, bailed
He was
out.
bailed out by Pereira in the first game and bailed out by Dorset.
Oh, there was. You're right. Early in the first half, he almost turned like a tanker, didn't he? The guy
Yes.
just absolutely skinned him around the outside. Yeah,
Yes.
forgot about that one. Yeah,
And that could have changed the context of the game for sure, because Reading, have for a while been a team that much prefer to play, from either a winning or a drawing game state. They are not very good at all at coming back. Reading, I get very excited when they do actually do that because it's so rare. But again, I think that's part of the confidence that's going to take a while to turn around. You talk about Porty O'Connor being like this tanker that takes a long time to turn around, and I think it's Bobbins in the Tilehurst group chat this weekend said, the tanker takes a while to turn around in terms of confidence.
Yeah.
And that's part of that for me. But, getting time to bop the ball around at the back and be 2-0 up against Burton and look like you could go, another few up from there, I think is a good sign. And Daniel Kyerewaa has, I obviously think he's played well this year. But also some of his finishing has been absolutely atrocious.
Yeah. So let's talk about the special.
So there you go. Yeah, carry on.
Because obviously it's become not a civil war. That's a bit dramatic, isn't it? But in at Tilehurst End Towers, TTE Towers, there has been a lot of debate around Special K and what he brings to the team and what he doesn't bring to the team. We gave him his flowers after Blackpool away. It was a very, very good performance. Ross made some outlandish claims in the weeks after that, saying that, clubs like Inter Milan were looking at him, all this kind of stuff.
And Fortuna Dusseldorf.
See, there it is. It's not for a fact. It is coming, the cough. But ultimately, we're all agreed we want all the players to do well because it means the club's doing well, it means the team's doing well, it means we're progressing, it means we're doing the right things on the pitch. For me, and you could say this arguably about a lot of the players in the team up until recently, they've not been consistent enough. And so, he gets in the right spaces. He gets in the goal scoring opportunities. And you talked about XG, and I'm literally being sick in my mouth as I say that. But he has got better. The goal against Burton is proof of that. It was a very nice finish from quite close range, a tightish angle after Jack Marriott had put us ahead with another well taken goal from him. But
really lovely header.
It was. They were both good goals. And for you, Ross, do you see Special K improving even further on his current form?
Yeah, I think so, because I just don't think that you can be as poor finishing as he was in some of the games recently, even when he's played well. I just don't think that's going to continue forever. He produced fewer expected goals on target relative to his expected goals, so he's kind of like lashing the ball wide or high. As I think, I think whenever the ball falls to Daniel Kyerewaa, there's this sense in me that either something magnetic and incredible is going to happen, or it's going to end up spaffed in some really
over
odd
the stand.
spot. Yeah, exactly. But the thing about him is that whenever he picks up the ball, or whenever there's a threat that he's going to pick up the ball, Reading end up 20 yards further down the field, and it's so valuable because there were times when he would pick up the ball and Burton would just retreat 20 yards because they were we know we can't run with him if we get in a foot race, so we have to give him some space and try to block him if he comes inside. So for me, it's a case of what can Reading do with that space, as well as how can Daniel Kyerewaa improve. And I think that it's good though that he's putting more and more tape of this sort of one-on-one stuff on film for other League One coaches to look at and decide whether they want to plan for him. And if they do, that just leaves more space for Kamari Doyle. I don't think it's too much of a surprise that as Kyerewaa's had good games, Doyle's had good games too, because, you know, that right back has to push out towards Kyerewaa to kind of like help out and stop that, him being such a one-on-one threat. He only got like one or two one-on-ones the entire Stockport game because they were putting both their right centre back and their right wing back, you know, keeping a very close eye on him. But that led to Kamari Doyle, especially in the first half, having space in the left half space to turn. And he took some good passes from Dorset, took some good passes from Savage as well in that space. It's because players are worried about Kyerewaa and what he might do. So look, I think that yes, he can improve, and I think that he will improve, because I just don't think that it's possible to keep finishing this poorly. At the level of footballer that he is, he will get better at that, and he will score more goals, and it's arriving in the right places at the right time is as much of a skill as anything, to me, like knowing where the ball is going to go. But the really exciting thing about Kyerewaa is it takes a part of the field and says, this is a danger zone, what are you going to do about it? And that opens up more space for Reading to work with. So, yeah, I think that he can improve, and Liam can improve the team as a result of what he's currently doing.
I mean, certainly the first half, it was probably one of the better attacking performances that I've seen. And I think you mentioned at the time, for you it was as well, Ross. Matt Ritchie and Liam Fraser obviously brought into the team for the visit of Burton on Thursday, losing track of the days here. What did you make of their impact, in particular Matt Ritchie, who is offering, you know, as we saw yesterday against Stockport, which we'll talk about in a minute, or rather on Sunday, if you listen to this on Tuesday, which you will be. You know, what is he in particular offering that we haven't had in previous weeks?
I think he's helped us be quite solid over the Stockport and the Burton game. And the reason I say that is because Richie playing has kind of allowed us to tweak the press a little bit. And it's really thrown a spanner into the works of both of these teams that we've played against. We've sort of cut out the pass around the corner for the sort of centre-back to go out to the full-back, or for the wide centre-back to go out to the wide full-back, or the wing-back when it was Stockport. And so what we kind of did was we had wings sitting at the base, and obviously Savage and Fraser have swapped in and out during these games, but then you would just have Richie, Kyerewaa, and then Fraser or Savage sitting in that second line, and then you get Doyle and Marriott pushing all the way forward. And Richie just did a fantastic job of marshalling, you know, how far to step up and how far to sit in. And I thought he actually did a pretty good job of that in Peterborough in the last 10 minutes that he had during that too, at getting Reading's formation line to just step up a bit and confront them a little bit earlier. And what that really did for me against Stockport, you know, kind of transitioning into that, talking about these two players, is that it really cut out the amount of time that Ollie Norwood was able to have the ball in that game. And so in Burton's case, it was able to cut out the time that their sixers were able to get on the ball. I think they had, I can't remember the name of the one lad they had who looked like a Chalk, I think his name was, who looked like quite a good player in midfield. He was good when he got on the ball, but part of why he wasn't able to get on the ball is because our press was so good. So I think with Richie, the organisation for me is the main thing that he brings. He helps organise the team around him. But obviously with the Burton, you know, cross for Marriott, we saw a really good delivery, and he's got a really nice whip when he does hit that cross, you know, into the box. So I thought that was really good to see. I think there's still things that he could do better, and I think he looked a little bit tired against Stockport, but you know, he's the age that he is. He's playing 2 games in the space of 3 or 4 days. I mean, my dog's lucky if it gets walked that much, so that's a lie. Dog gets walked every day. But yeah, I think that they just add like a little bit of nous and organisation, and I think that we saw that was valuable when we were under Hunt and there wasn't so much going on with the team. But now that there are other things actually happening in the team around them as well, and other players that can benefit from what they are doing, yeah, I think that they were helpful. But mostly for me, I thought it was a really good out of possession showing from Richie and Marriott in the last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously, much to my disappointment, Savage was dropped after his operation.
Was he dropped, or was it safety, health?
Bit of, maybe. I mean, but look, Burton are physical, aren't they? We know that from watching League One football. They're very, very physical. I can't remember who said it within the group chat, but they were very, very tired by the time they came into Reading, and there was no physicality from them at all, really. You are thinking of Chalk, who was probably their better midfield
You're
player.
spot on, actually. Yeah, I did say that in the chat during the game, and so I can actually explain kind of what happened in the game for me very quickly. And I think we were in control with this game, and I do think that Burton were bad, but we cut their pass around the corner, which meant that they couldn't pass into their midfield. Then they had to go over the top, and then we won 66% of the aerial duels in the game. So we were pretty much in control. You know, we were forcing them to do something that they didn't necessarily want to do, and then when they did that, we won that particular game, which was in the air. So yeah, I thought that we could maybe pass it around a little bit better and keep it away from them for greater stretches of the game. But then we kind of saw that against Stockport, so it's kind of odd, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, we didn't have to do very much against Burton. Stockport was a slightly different beast. Interesting matchups all over the pitch. Savage obviously brought back in, got under Norwood's skin, I think, very, very early on in terms of little nudges and kicks off the ball here and there, which did rattle him, I have to say. And in the lead up to the game, I spoke to one of the Stockport podcasts, something about a scarf. I know that's really disrespectful, but I'm really sorry, but I can't remember the name.
Hello, we're the Stockport podcast. This is where Phil Foden's from.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But I mean, lovely guy, Steve, on that pod.
Yeah.
Scarf Bagheera War, there you go. The Scarf Bagheera War.
He's doing the same thing on his podcast right now. We're on some weird Tiley Send podcast. I don't know, So
the Maidenhead End or something.
Right, exactly.
I said, I thought it was going to be quite tight. I didn't expect us to pick up a win. I would have been very happy with a draw. And I felt that game against, a team that's not in great form, but has overall over the last sort of season and a half proved that they can hang at the top end of this league quite comfortably. I felt any positive result was great for us, really. First half was pretty turgid from both teams in terms of cancelling each other out and trying to work out how to get balls through. And I think that, one of the most pleasing aspects, because we would have lost that game under Noel Hunt, 100%. We wouldn't have won that game. The perseverance and the commitment to the cause and the kind of we'll stay resilient. We'll keep it going. We'll use the ball as well as we can. Obviously, a Lewis Ping wonder goal yet again. I mean, the angle, if you've seen it behind him, the swaz on it, ridiculous.
Was it behind you? Then it wasn't going into the Dolan. It was going away from the Dolan.
Yeah, and it ended up, the swerve on it ended up bang centre in front of the goal. Like literally top part of it. So, wonderful goal to win any game, let alone that one, which, over the festive period finalised us with 13 points out of 15. It wasn't, the game itself wasn't a collector's item. It's not something you look back on and go, wow, we played amazing football. But what is clear, and we said this on the previous pod, is that Liam has made us harder to beat. Yeah. But now there seems to be a little bit more emphasis, as we saw in the Burton game, as we saw in spells in the Stockport game, a bit more kind of nous in the final third, which we've been lacking consistently over the course of the season. I mean, you were blessed with your ratings because there was a lot of players that had fantastic games on Sunday.
Yeah.
For you, who was your standout man, across that game?
Oh, that's a good question. I think there's a few in there to highlight. I want to point out Finn Burns, since he came into the team. I think against Burton and against Stockport was really good. I thought Stockport was his best so far. So Andy Yiadom pushes much further up than Gerald Dorset on the other side. That's how Liam is setting up. He's setting up in a 3-2 build-up. So that is completely by design. Gerald Dorset sits a lot deeper. It leaves space sometimes if Reading don't shift across quick enough, or if the ball ends up transitioning back towards Reading before they're done in their build-up phase. It means the space that Yiadom has left behind him can be exploited, and Stockport went at that over and over again in the first half, trying to find a way to get in behind Reading there. Finn Burns shut it down by himself in the first half, which was just really, really impressive. And also got some really important clearances and blocks. And he's a lad like Pereira. He makes a big block and he gets up and he celebrates it like a goal, which I love. I think a lot of us want to see defenders who are that excited about doing that particular thing. So Finn Burns for me has been great since he came in, and 2 clean sheets.
He's an interesting one to focus on, and that wasn't on my agenda, I have to say, but we'll do that anyway because you're right, there is a lot of passion there. Obviously, before Burton, really towards the end of Christmas and into New Year, there was a lot of I say rumours. Are they ever rumours? I don't know, but stories that he was going to be recalled from Man City.
The City fans certainly thought so.
Yeah, and from our point of view, social media is not a true barometer at times of where fans are. But there was a lot of fans that were kind of nonplussed about it on the social media platforms. Obviously, Derek Williams, we've said time and again, has been one of the signings of the season in terms of the consistency and the physical prowess that he's brought to the team in terms of leadership qualities as well. But, the biggest compliment you can give Finn Burns is that we've not missed Des, to be honest.
No, I mean, Finn Burns has come in, we've conceded 1 goal, right?
Yeah,
so
which is great. It's fantastic. And obviously he's part of a unit and everyone understands that, and defensively, but he's a big part of that. There is a bit more calmness now. I think Yiadom has been good over the last 2-3 games. I think he's been quite positive in terms of what he's tried to do. Dorset, I'm still on the fence about. Pordy, for me, has got a lot more to do, I think, in terms of the player that we thought we were getting. But, what for you moving forward, and I think this is probably an early question in the mailbag, would be the ideal combination in central defence?
Ideal combination in central defence? That's a great question.
Because it's difficult, because they're all very similar, aren't they, in a lot of respects?
I think Burns is a little bit different, but yeah, I know what you mean, because Burns is doing things that Derek Williams can do as well, in my opinion. I think Williams may be a little bit better in the air at the moment. Porty's a weird one, because Porty does have an obvious deficiency in that he has the pace of me on New Year's Day. It doesn't move with any kind of speed whatsoever. But on the other hand, like I was mentioning, we forced Burton to go up in the air long, and suddenly we win the vast majority of duels. And a lot of that's coming from Porty. A lot of that's also coming from Gerald Dorset. And I think that that's something that we need to respect as Reading fans, is that you need to get through a lot of the physical stuff in the game. And Dorset does tend to win the physical stuff, 3 times out of 4, if not higher. He is very good when he's one-on-one. He struggles with communication sometimes with the rest of the defense
and passing.
and his passing, but he had 2 really, really great passes punched through the lines, to Kamari Doyle, which is what we were trying to do in this game. And he finished the game, I mean, I'll check it now, he finished the first half with the same number of passes into the final third as Finn Burns, Finn Burns was the most prolific passer into the final third for Reading in the first half. But yeah, no, Dorset ended the game with the most. So it's really tough, because Dorset, since Liam's come in, I want to make this really, really clear. Yes, he is playing left back. Yes, Andy Yiadom is playing right back. They are playing 2 completely different roles. They are not playing... It's not close. They are in the opposite line in the build-up. So Yiadom moves all the way up high, and Dorset is stuck in the back.
Do you know what? I was looking at him a lot over the last 2 games. He pushes up really high, doesn't he?
Yiadom, yeah, 100%. And Abreu was doing the same thing. And I think Yiadom has kind of helped the back 4 tick in that he has a slightly better sense of when to go and when to stay. And he also, I think Yiadom moves with the rhythm of the game a little bit better, whereas Abreu is kind of go forward, go forward, go forward. Yiadom is more capable of being like, we're in a period of possession here, pass back to Finn Burns, get back into the space for another quick pass and things like that. And Abreu is not always the best at knowing what's in behind him, as we saw with the penalty given away. Look, I think Dorset... I think Dorset's, I gave him the most improved player according to me last year, and I do think he's come on a lot, and I just think that he's got one of these things, like Porty O'Connor, that is he just does very, very well. And for him, it's winning one-on-one. And for Porty, it's winning in the air. That it's valuable in your team. And I think what Liam's done with Gerald Dorset has understood what he does well, understood what he doesn't do well, and he's put him into a position that he can succeed in. And the proof in the pudding is like I said, 1 goal conceded in the last 3 games. So I think, to be honest, right now, even if Des was fit, you don't change it.
You don't. The last thing you do is change a defence that is not conceding goals, or rather, very, very few goals. And it's good to see that. We said it time and again, but regardless of what people think of Limo, as we like to call him here at TTE Towers, he's made us a lot harder to beat. He has made us a lot harder to beat, and that compact nature of how we defend and, at times don't transition the ball into midfield has worked in our favour over the last block of games. I guess the final question really, and it's a big one, it's quite contentious as well, I guess. Did we deserve to win the game against Stockport?
I think we deserve to win that game as much as we deserve to win a lot of the Noah Hunt 1-0s in the back half of last season, and that's where I think if you're going to lock it down and play for a 1-goal game, or a 1-score game, they'd call it in America, then sometimes you are going to have periods where they attack more and you attack more, and Stockport are a good team, regardless of them. I was listening to the preview before, and it sounds like they're not particularly convinced by their team this year, but they've watched 2 years of their team competing for the playoffs, so their circumstances have changed somewhat in how their fans are thinking about it. They're a decent team. I would have liked to see us create a little bit more in this game, but I think it is encouraging that it appeared, when we've shown that we can now consistently create chances in the box, consistently score 3 goals or more. We've also shown against Luton, which was going well for about 65 minutes, and now against Stockport as well, that if we need to, and if a big team comes in, or a team that can attack and be dangerous comes in, we can lock it down and get a lot more compact. So I thought that was good to see, and I think that, Jack Marrett has been the difference in some of these other games that we've had this year that have been very, very tight. And Jack Marrett was poor. I thought this was his worst performance of the season against Stockport. And whatever, he'll have bad performances and good ones. It's fine. He'll be back.
I think he was quite selfish at times in the first half. He chose to shoot when he could have laid it off. And but look, when you're in that run of form, you do what you want.
Exactly.
I'm going, all right, mate. Give us the ball.
Yeah, and you're going to have bad games. And as a striker too, when you don't get that much of the ball, sometimes you're just never going to warm up, and it's just not going to happen for you. My favourite part of the bad Jack Marrett performance is when he headed a ball backwards towards his own net when he was defending a free kick into the box. So I think he came off 2 or 3 minutes after that. Liam went, all right, mate, you've had enough for today. But yeah, so my point is just to say, I think, we were still able to produce enough to win the game. We made a chance for Lewis Wing on the edge of the box to shoot. We know he's dangerous from there. And we had a couple of other okay chances. But again, good team, and I think it's a good result.
Well, look, over the festive period, which we would include Luton in that, because that was at the start of the Christmas period, really, that bizarre Thursday game, whilst everyone else played on Saturday. 13 points from 15. As I said, no other League One side picked up as many points as us. The facts are we finished this festive period in 9th, 35 points, 4 points off the playoffs, and I think that pretty much puts to bed any talk of relegation battles. I don't think the team are going to drop off as badly as that to be drawn into the lower part of the table.
I'm a little bit worried now. Just say, because if you said Daniel Kyerewaa's no good, and it turns out he is, so can you just say that?
When you look at the other teams down there, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
and the proof of that. If you have a look on, well, it'll be on social media, but it'll probably be on the YouTube channel, and I guess the app as well. But Charlie Savage gave a fantastic interview after the game against Stockport, full of confidence. Obviously everyone who listens to this pod knows how I feel about that young player and how well he did against Stockport, coming in from that operation and a bit of flu over Christmas and stuff. So he's been struggling a little bit with some physical bits, but performance against Stockport was unreal, absolutely unreal. I mean, him and Finn Burns were my co-chap of the match, if you can have such a thing. But the interview that he gave, full of confidence, real belief in what this team can achieve, which is a real stark turnaround to 4 or 5 weeks ago when we were really struggling to get anything going under Leam. We were recovering from Noel Hunt. There was no real style. It was turgid. I think it still is turgid at times, but it's quite incredible what winning games will do to a fan base and the mentality of the players and everything. So, make no mistake about it, we're on an upward curve. Big game in, almost 2 weeks' time.
In 6 years from now.
6 years from now against Leyton Orient. It's been such a weird season. We've said this time and again, but so many games congested on all these different days of the week, and then we have nothing. I know we obviously got knocked out of the cup, and it was our own fault. But even so, to then go 2 weeks pretty much without a game, crazy. But anyway, that's the reality of it. So
for the first time, though, I in Liam's most recent interview, he was talking about that almost from a positive perspective, which I thought was interesting. Or was it a Liam interview or one of the other coaches who just come in? I can't quite remember. But the coaches at least have had stuff that they're doing and getting on with. I think Liam changed the club pretty much immediately. We went straight to that box midfield and trying all kinds of things, literally against Carlisle. But now, a few, the players are starting to click with it for sure, and starting to understand what's asked of them, and going from a game, going from a setup whereby there just really wasn't a whole lot going on. I thought the passing in triangles at points against both Stockport and Burton was really impressive, and getting back up to some of the best times under Sellers as well. So, but yeah, Savage good too. I have a question for the Codpast from TTE writer for the mailbag on Savage. So I won't talk about him too much right now.
We'll come back to it.
We'll come back to it, yeah. But I think the only thing you and I are would like to improve a little bit quicker than just it's on the. We want them to be able to compete for a full 90. I think that's one thing we're missing right now, is that there 100%. Are periods in a game whereby Reading can go missing for a bit. I think in the Stockport one, it was 45 minutes to 60 minutes. And you can control a game. You can hold a team at arm's length, which is kind of how I felt we did it against Burton. But against Plymouth and to a degree against Stockport, that we did pretty well. We did have a period where we just sort of lost the plot for a little bit. So that's what we
that Plymouth spell, as you said, and it's weird because it's not like individuals, it's collectively the team goes missing. And that goes back to the point we made about leaders and that drive, and that's why I kind of mentioned that Charlie Savage interview, because he references that a little bit in terms of the enthusiasm and excitement and belief, and that's got to come now. They're obviously a very fragile unit and have been a very fragile unit for a variety of reasons. But winning games will help that, and picking up points when you're not playing well will help that. I don't think in any of the games we were absolutely fantastic, but that you're right, that bit where they went missing against Plymouth, that could have been catastrophic for the game in terms of the result. They nearly blew a 3-goal lead. So, what we want to see is a bit more consistency, which will come, hopefully will come. As I said, it's a big game against Leyton Orient. We're kind of going back-to-back weekends now and a couple of games in midweek. So there's a bit more flow and rhythm to the last part of this season, moving into the dog days of May. So it's all to play for in this league, as we've said time and again. It's very, very close. All to play for still on the pod. We're going to go into the mailbag head first after this short break. Right, mailbag time on episode 446 of your Tilehurst End podcast. Have you
thinking
got
about you saying dog days of May as we get into the run-in, as I'm looking outside at the snow and it was minus 14 Celsius when I walked the dog.
No,
this
it
morning.
wasn't. What's that in proper temperature?
It gets to no Celsius. Yeah Celsius. I'm translating.
Minus 14 degrees.
Yeah, it's super fun living in.
No, that's ridiculous,
America, guys. It's great. I love it.
What does that even feel like?
Pain. It's sort of like when you. No, it's fine. But if you're out,
do your eyes go weird and stuff?
My jaw goes a bit weird. I'll be calling our new sheepdog is called Patch, and so I'll be calling Patch. Strong name. Good dog name. Quite happy with that. I think I've talked about this before, but my other dog is called Tonka. And he is a big, chunky...
I haven't seen Tonka for a little while, actually. That's one of my favourite... Out of all the things we've done together on a pod, you bring in Tonka on at the end of that I think I've still got I've still got the photo on my phone. Sounds a bit weird, but it's not. Of that screenshot of you holding him up and you're just like looking at him. Like that's my favourite, probably my favourite part of the pod.
I do love Tonka. But yeah, so yeah, it just freezes up your face. So like by half an hour in, like I'll be like yelling patch and I can feel it in the top of my like jaw, like it just a little bit locked up.
But can you do anything in minus 14 degrees? Like, can you drive?
Yeah, because Oh yeah, it's fine. You can walk over. The best thing about it is that where I go walking the dog, a lot of people go ice fishing. So I'll be like following people out in the morning who are pulling sleds and things like that.
Okay.
And they'll have there's loads of holes all over the pond, and I'll walk across the pond because it's like the quickest way to get from one section of the track to the other. Guess that won't be happening come August because it'll be a pond.
Unless you're a fish.
But that's the benefit of it being very, very cold is that everything freezes. So, ups and downs, kind of good, kind of bad. Really
you can't
cold.
play football in minus 14 degrees there, can you?
We should definitely move on soon. But I do run an indoor football league over here.
Oh, right, okay, fine.
I run a few indoor football teams over in Portland, which is always fun. So if you're in Maine, I know there's a few listeners who are in Maine.
There is actually.
Want to play football? I do run a football organization out here. So yeah, hit me up on Bluesky, do whatever, and come and play with us. It's fun.
Minus 14 degrees. How high? Final
it's
question.
bad when you go into do you know what the worst time is? It's when it's really, really cold, and then you go into a building when there's been no use sessions or anything that day, so no one's turned the heat on yet.
Yeah.
So you get in there at 9 o'clock at night, and it's freezing cold, and it's like.
How much snow are you talking? Like what?
Where are we at this year? Yeah, we've had probably I had about 8 inches just before Christmas, and then maybe about a half foot before that in dribs and drabs. So it just keeps coming. And then,
so you had a white Christmas then?
Yes, very much so. Yes, very white Christmas.
Crazy.
Very white Christmas.
All right. Well, minus 14 it is. I think it was about -2 when I started the car this morning. And let me tell you, Spanish cars are not designed for this weather.
Not designed.
Honestly, it's like sitting in a cloud for 15 minutes while everything's trying to thaw out.
Yeah.
Anyway, right, mailbag time. We're going to go to Bluesky.
Bluesky.
Which we have had today, actually.
Yeah.
Blue skies have been great to see. Tom Baker, great pods over Christmas. Oh, stop it, you.
Nice
and a great start to 2026 for Reading. 2 questions. All right, greedy. Chill out. Save some questions for the others. Who do you start? Oh, we've done that one already. Who do you start as centre-backs when Derek Williams is back fit? Burns has been excellent. Good selection problem to have. Kind of answered that one, haven't we?
Yeah, everyone stays the same and we don't use... Yeah, we just keep going.
This is a beefy one. Okay. Has R. Williams, he doesn't call him Monsters Inc., but we will, done enough to get a contract extension to the end of the season?
Oh, until the end of the season, yeah. Yeah, he's useful enough. He's got a right engine on him. That's which seems to be one of the things that Liam really likes. But there again, there are things that you can use. Even the first 6 months or so of Savage, when there were things about his game that were needed improving. He had a bit of a tendency to dive into challenges when he didn't need
Charlie
to.
Savage.
Yeah. 3 years ago, and has improved. So yeah, I think. Sorry, I got distracted by talking shit. Completely. What was the question? Has Randall Williams done enough?
Yeah, has he done enough? Yeah.
Yeah, he's got something that he does that's useful.
Just say yes, and we can move on.
Yes.
Great, thanks. Right, Andy Taylor. I haven't seen you around, actually. Have you? I guess you've been going to games, Andy. But
yeah,
I've not had a beer update from Andy recently. It's a bit cold for beer, to be honest with you.
No, I don't think it can't be too cold for beer.
I promise you, right, the concourse in the Dolan is a good 6 degrees less than anywhere else it should be, right? So it's for maths fans out there, say it's 0 degrees.
Okay.
The Dolan concourse would be -6.
Okay, 100%. And how many oranges?
It's the coldest place I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
Just grim, absolutely grim. Where do we need to strengthen? For me, we need a proper left back. Oh, there you go. Don't upset Ross. Another centre back with pace and another striker. Playoffs are certainly possible now, especially if we keep the momentum going. This is an interesting question because had we been asked this 4 weeks ago, we would have gone, everybody, sack all of the players. But now,
Maybe.
what
Yeah.
do you do? Someone made the point. I can't remember if it was on Facebook or it might have been Bluesky. It definitely wasn't Twitter. But someone said that we would now become a more attractive proposition
Yeah.
for players to come in than we were, at the start of November, for example.
For sure.
I mean, the ball is kind of back in our court, if you like. Where do we strengthen, Ross, with this team at the moment?
I will say, like, despite my appreciation for what Dorset's done and the way in which I think Liam has found him a role that really, really works in this team, I do agree that a real left back, for lack of a better term, is needed. Because the thing about Yiadom is he's quite old. And he does break down quite a lot, and so like you're back to a Brafer on the right side maybe. So I don't know if you maybe bring in like another fullback who can play on either side and is capable of going forward a little bit more, but also being a little bit more responsible defensively than a Brafer, obviously. I think that bringing in a left back first will probably be the like a guy who came up playing left back and can play right back if needed, but is a left back to all intents and purposes. With Matty Jacob leaving, I would agree that's someone that's needed, because right now, like I said, we kind of send the right fullback up the line towards the attacking line in build up, and that leaves space in behind on the right. And so if we just keep doing that over and over and over again, come February, every team's going to be doing that to us, and they are going to have worked out when to push that ball into that space to really, really hurt us. And so I think like we need to be able to do the same thing, but the other side over, or like the same thing, but one of the other players pulls out to that particular position, and having another proper left back who can push up will help us to do that. And then I guess it's really tricky, isn't it? Because I think a few weeks ago, like you said, we might have said an Amadou and Benge type centre back, and yet now, with Finn Burns in the team, it looks like that's kind of going to be who it is for a while. And while he's certainly not an Mbenge type, he's not like a runner with the ball. He is still, I think, perfectly good with the ball at his feet. Like he doesn't. I didn't see him get beaten on the run or anything like that too many times in the last few games. That's more Porty. So yeah, I guess we talk about this all the time, but left back and maybe a centre back, maybe an attacking midfielder to give Kamari Doyle a little bit of pressure for his role. I think, but. On that, I kind of want to roll in one of the emails that we got.
Well, do you know, before you do that, I was trying to look at free agent left backs.
Okay.
But I think I've pressed the wrong thing on Transfermarkt, and it's coming up with all these players that, honestly, it's just blown up.
Lionel Messi.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I mean, stupid stuff, but Brandon Williams, Sergio Reguilon, remember he used to play for Spurs?
Yeah, he plays for Inter Miami now, I think.
What, Reguilon, does he?
Yeah, I think he's just moved. He might have done. I could be wrong, but I thought he just moved over here, yeah.
But, I mean, I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see if there is more of a cohesion. So one of the positive things that, the club have had to agree to it, but, Liam has clearly said to him is that I need coaches. I need proper good coaches that are going to be able to move this team on. And I think, bringing those three in, obviously keeping Ledge as well, like that's a real positive thing because they've had an impact on being able to not. I don't think there's been any standout players that have been hugely developed, but there is a developing consistency there, which is down, as you always said, Ross, and always say, it's down to the coaching and the people that are around those players. So
I commend the club. Sorry, Ben, to cut you off. I really commend the club for keeping Ledger around because it would have been very easy to let go of Ledger. It would at the same time that they 100%. Let go of Hunt, and I think that Hunt, we've talked to death the kind of issues that he had. I think a lot of them were coaching, comporting yourself as a manager and these kinds of things. But I think that what was true of his Reading squad is that the team liked him. Like, I don't think that Wing would have stayed in the summer if he didn't, he wasn't at least willing to play for No. I don't think Joe would have stayed in the summer. And he was clearly like able to tempt some players to, to come and play with him. I think Jack Marrow is a good signing. And he will have had options elsewhere in League
I don't
One.
think he was a Noel Hunt signing.
Well, possibly, yeah. But again, a player who was willing to come in, under Noel. Sorry, what was the question? Lost track of the question
I don't
again.
know.
Yeah, we're way off
I
on that.
can't remember. What did I ask you? Did I ask you anything? Or did you just like...
Um,
Oh, we're talking about the coaches. It wasn't a question.
oh yeah, yeah.
And then you
But
just
sorry, I think
interrupted
that
me
it
like you
was
always
sorry. I
do.
was talking about Ledgerwood. I didn't even you didn't even ask me a question.
No, I
So I
didn't.
cut in all over you like a rude American. Anyway,
Ice fisher.
and yeah, I'm just think that it's good that they kept Ledge because I think that one thing that's clear is that the players and Noel did have a relationship, and
Mm.
the players didn't like stop playing for Noel necessarily. It's just that they didn't have enough instruction, and I think that keeping Ledgerwood has allowed them to keep some of that connection with the players as Liam has come in and changed things quite a lot, both in terms of how the team plays, the coaching staff, other than, Ledge and the goalkeeper coach as well. I
Yeah.
can't remember his name right now.
Shay.
But
Robert.
Rob Shea.
Rob
Yeah.
Shay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's just, coaching it's super, super important.
Mm.
And having a top down approach, that's also super important.
Alistair, what's an acceptable window?
An acceptable window. So, okay, it comes down to me. So here's another question for you. I just said
Good
Kamari
question, by the
Doyle.
way.
It is
That
a good question.
what are we saying as Reading fans per se is an acceptable month?
And then there's like acceptable in terms of like what's acceptable for what you and I, Ben, perceive that we need. And then there's acceptable for what the fan base is going to want given the comments from both Liam and Rob through the year. And then there's a case of like what is acceptable in terms of what is Liam going to want to stay happy, as he comes down into this year. So for me, it comes down to I think that we need at least one player who comes into this lineup and will now start like 75% of the games coming up. That may be a left back, Dorset may be the guy to lose his position there. It may be competition for Kamari Doyle, although I do think that Kamari Doyle has gotten better as he's gotten confident in the last few games, as Kyerewaa has basically drawn more attention. I think Kamari Doyle's gotten a little bit better. But we got a question from Alex, who writes for us on the Tilehurst End website.
I mean, he's prolific at the moment. He's done a lot of pieces.
Yeah, he's like Michael Owen in his youth.
He is, and honestly, they'll all be on a website. If you're not on social media, they'll all be on the website. They are really, really good articles. So check them out because there's some good stuff on there.
Yeah, really good. So he asked, and this came for a little bit of context, this came in after the Peterborough game, so he's obviously in a slightly different headspace at that time to us after 2 wins, but he asked at that time whether we thought that Richardson was limiting the ability to utilise Savage's strengths, for the team. And I think something that we've seen since then is Liam kind of push him up into that sort of like left-sided 10 position. And the other thing I was just saying then was maybe you bring in a guy for a competition to Kamari Doyle. So my question to you, Ben, is do you think this midfield looks a little bit better if you push Charlie Savage into that 10 position? Or would you keep him deeper on the field?
For me, yeah, because, my biggest frustration with Liam is that he keeps Wing and Savage always behind the ball. He never wants to push him up. And I think the 10 minutes that Charlie came on against Burton, he was, Kelvin was on at the same time as well, Long Kelvin, and he was passing balls to him. He was giving him opportunities. And I think, the criticism of the team overall this season, up until recently, has been that they haven't created enough in the final third. And if you push Charlie up, I'm not sold on Kamari Doyle yet at all. I'm just not there yet with him. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I just don't see what he brings. You can all say they've done well over the last couple of games because they have, and credit to them. But overall, I've not been hugely keen on Kamari Doyle, and I think if you can push one of them up, it's going to be Charlie because he's got the engine to get backwards and forwards, whereas Lewis Wing hasn't. So I would like to see that. My overall concern is that there isn't enough on the bench at the moment within that squad on a match day that you can go, we're really struggling, we'll swap this and we'll have an impact off the bench. And and I'm talking very long-term previous years. You think about the players like Adam Lafondra, which is a really lazy comparison, but you bring him on, he'd be amongst the goals or he'd do something at least. There was always this development of strength and depth where players kind of knew their role within the squad. And I think for me, what's an acceptable window is looking at some of those players like Andre Garcia, looking at Michael Stickland, looking at maybe Ashkar Ahmed, who I really rate, by the way. I think he's a fantastic young player, going out on loan for a couple of weeks, months, whatever, just to get a bit more football and a little bit more experience. So I think that's really, really difficult at the moment in terms of where that depth isn't. So for me, I'd like to see some more experienced players coming in, even if that's the short term, just to see us through this crucial part of the season and be able to affect things off the bench. Because at the moment, I don't think we've got that at all. Certainly in an attacking sense, there's no depth there whatsoever for me.
I think you push. I do think that you make Savage now the guy who's pushing Kamari Doyle for that spot, and obviously Savage can play anywhere in the midfield. That's totally fine. But Liam Fraser came in, and showed, I thought he did good, against Burton. Like I think that he kind of showed a masterclass in how you can affect a football game without touching the ball. Like he's just a pain in the ass to play against. Like I was watching him, he's one of those assholes that if you're playing pickup, every single time he goes near you, he's just going to shove you because he's there now, so he's just going to shove you and like throw you. He's just physical. He's like Porty. He's just constantly going to let you know he's there, and he's got a big frame. And there was like one point where he moved across. This guy was running around him faster than him, but he moved across him. He just moves his whole frame across, and the guy goes over his back, and it's a foul. And it's just like a very useful little skill to be able to just like kill dead the momentum of the opposition.
I think the overreaction to his performance was a little bit over the top, really.
You're
not going to get a nicer game to come back from injury, with all due respect, than Burton at home.
Sure.
So had he gone into the team against Stockport, I think he would have struggled.
That's the question, though.
That midfield,
I see. I'm not sure, and I don't say I'm not sure because I think he's amazing and Savage isn't or anything like that.
I know.
Same thing if you brought in like I think a lot of how this season's going to end for Reading is going to verge on what does Rinomhota look like when and if he actually gets back to the team. And if he is an improvement on what we saw from Liam Fraser in this game, and you're able to plug him in and push Savage higher, then maybe the balance of the midfield is now a lot better. And maybe now in Savage being in that 10 position, the thing that he has that Doyle doesn't have is that threat that if he shoots, he might score from outside of the box, same as Lewis Wing.
Well, I mean, the other two players we haven't talked about, Paddy Lane and Ben Elliott.
Yeah. I don't know where Paddy Lane is.
When you chuck them in the mix, it changes the complexion altogether, doesn't it? But I mean, he obviously is not keen on talking about injuries. I think that's a bit odd. I don't know why you wouldn't, but whatever. So you chuck them to, and obviously Rinomhota has been. We don't know the full story there, so it's wrong to speculate. But there's obviously a lot of things going on there. So that has not worked out at all up until this point. So look, there's options there really. What else we got? RFC Martar talks about Burns and Williams or Burns and O'Connor. Again, we've kind of covered that really, but he says Williams has been solid as a rock, so I'd really like to see what they would be like together in terms of him and Burns. Yeah, I mean, he's a real ball-playing centre-back, he says, in terms of Finley Burns, which we kind of touched upon really. Matthew Hopkins, playoffs should be the target. Burton was deserved, but Stockport could have gone either way. Burns was the best player over both games. Also, is it just me, or is Long Kelvin winning loads more headers, duels, since Liam has been manager?
I would agree with that as
That's because we're going long all the time.
Not quite. I mean, it's such a weird, I don't know, long Kelvin, long balls. People get weird about things that are long. I don't know. Yeah, Long Kelvin has been better since Liam joined. I think he's kind of learned to be a striker almost since Liam joined. And this was the first game, the Stockport game, where Kelvin came on, and I thought he was better than Marriott, like significantly better than Marriott. He should have had the game-winning assist minutes before Dorset ended up, nicking it, because he laid off Wing in the box, and Wing took an age to get his shot off. And if he hadn't done that, Kelvin basically, had put a pass against the grain that just completely pulled Stockport apart. That was really impressive to see, and that was really good. So,
well, we've said, and and you've said it as well, we really like Long Kelvin on this pod. He is a really cool player, and
He's fun.
Forget anything else. When he scores, he does that celebration, which I think is, the
I
hand
do
over
like
the face for
the hand
audio
face
listening.
celebration is cool. Yeah,
Really cool player. So I really want to see him kick on in this part of the season and get some important goals and have a real positive contribution in terms of the final third.
yeah.
Chris, who donated an awful lot of stuff to children in hospital, by the way. So congratulations to Chris for doing that. That was really, really good stuff, and clap to you, because that was quality to do that. So well done. Many were underwhelmed with Liam Richardson, but none of us can knock him now. Same group of players, getting much more out of them. We look a proper team rather than clueless individuals. Really need to ensure we don't take a step back on transfer targets due to a good run. Good point. It's kind of what we said at the start in terms of that question about targets. I wanted to ask you, Ross, about Limo, because we've talked a lot about the team on the pitch. How are you feeling now about him as a manager, to kind of wrap up the pod? Like, where are you at with him in terms of, how he speaks, what he says when he speaks, just the overall vibe that you get from him as manager of Reading Football Club at the moment?
One of the things that I'm feeling with Liam is that he's one of the first managers of Reading Football Club I feel like I've experienced who's like almost swimming in the same media environment as the rest of us, in that he seems to be aware of online, publications and what the general conversation is around the club and things like that. And I think that's partially just because the players are just so much more plugged into that now. Like when Charlie was on last year, it was very, very clear that, the players are reading the social media and they know what's going on social media. They know the rumors and all these kinds of things. And I think with Liam, he's really he's not like the best on the injuries thing. I think the injuries thing is a problem, because I think that when you create a vacuum, it allows space for people to just put whatever nonsense into, basically. So that isn't how I would do it, but I get it. Some sports do it. One of the things that I do like that he does is that he does seem quite switched on with, the way in which fans interact with with the team and with their club and things like that. I think that in terms of the play style, I was banging on about it like 3 games in, that our XG was so much better and that we were creating chances in the box, and we continue to do that. And when you have players like Savage and Wing who will be able to hit in balls for you outside of the box, making other teams more afraid that you are going to get into the box and you are going to get a shot, means that they have to leave more space available for Wing and for Savage to hit the ball in, which I think it is a good thing. I think it's part of why you haven't seen those long shots and those long goals disappear as Liam's come in and made the team more capable of getting those shots in the box. It means that they're also capable of getting the shots outside of the box. It's kind of how Aston Villa have turned their season around, is by forcing teams to respect them outside of the box. Now they have more space inside of the box. So it kind of works in a reverse way as well. I think that people are very led by outcomes, and that makes sense, obviously. Like Port Vale have been putting up good numbers for a long time this year, but are rock bottom of the league. So outcomes are important, don't get me wrong. But even during that week from hell, Liam's team were still creating chances in the box. And it's the thing, like I say, with Kyerewaa, Kyerewaa is not going to miss this many chances for that much longer, because things just do tend to revert towards the mean eventually. I think that the fact that Liam has managed to take this squad that has not really done a great job of creating chances in the box for a year, and made it so that they can do that pretty consistently, and then put us on a good run at Christmas, which has involved us conceding very little. I think it's a pretty good CV so far. I think Wim said it in the chat this week, and obviously it was fun to have Wim back. But Liam, to me, he just seems like a guy who's been there and done it before. He seems like a guy who's taken Wigan up before. And I was thinking about this. I think Wigan are a really good comparison to Reading, actually. I think Wigan and Reading are similar-ish clubs in a way. They had a similar-ish era of where they were good. They have their glory moments. They have that FA Cup, obviously. We have that 8th place finish.
I think the only thing you could test there in terms of the fan base, because even when Wigan were at the height, they still really struggled with attendances, because obviously it's a rugby league town, right?
Rugby town.
It's the northern powerhouse historically. Wigan Rugby League, been a fantastic team. So, but you're right. I mean, same trajectories. I think he's feeling a lot more comfortable. I mean, he didn't have a good start, and I know you said it wasn't a big deal, but your first game in charge, losing at home to a non-league side in the
People
cup.
didn't like that take, did they? That I was saying doesn't matter.
No, they did. It went down very badly. It went down like a Christmas pudding in January, I tell you. So,
yeah.
It's all about opinions. It's a game of opinions, as we always said. But that was not a good start, and that put him on the back foot, I think, for a good month, really. Obviously learned a lot about the players, and there's been major fallouts from that in terms of Matty Jacob leaving, and probably other players that won't play for the club again, going back to their parent clubs or whatever. So, I think in the long run he learned a lot, but at the time it was like, this is not what you want to start your new role at a football club. So I think he's got some great ideas. I really do. I just hope we can build on it now. Like, I don't want us to look back and go, "Oh, Christmas was good," and then that be the highlight of our season. I still think we're capable of more. I really do, certainly performance-wise, and I think the players are capable of more on a personal level as well. But
I think what we've shown in the last like month is closer to what this squad should be than what we did in September, right? Yeah. Like the club is maybe like second was a silly thing to say, but again, I think that like I won't be surprised now if they go on and finish seventh for a second successive season, because I really think that Reading's squad is easily a top 10 squad in this division. We have there are no other teams in the division with a player like Lewis Wing or like Joe Pereira. And there are other very special players in the division, don't get me wrong. But we have some very special players. We are very blessed in that regard in this league at this resource level. And we should be higher up the league. We should be in the top 10. We shouldn't have ever been in a position where, yes, it was a bad start. So early on in the season, you can end up in bad places in the table, but we shouldn't have been still fighting a relegation or like looking over our shoulders at the zone in, October with that squad. So, yeah.
Before we go, we're talking about signings and impacts and everything else. And we were talking a little bit on the group chat yesterday about Jason Roberts, who for me was one of the signings of Reading Football Club history.
Probably the best.
I don't know if I ever showed that, have I? Look, my son photo of Jason Roberts.
I don't think you have shown me that. That's very nice. I like that.
Bizarre shirt.
Yeah.
He's wearing his that was not the one that he. That was the one when we were in the Premier League when it was all a bit weird, that shirt. But
yeah.
It was like two hoops or something.
It's a QPR shirt, yeah.
It is. It's really weird. But I met him and I got him to sign that. This was the good old days when they sold player headshots in the club shop.
I used to love those. Love those, yeah.
So, that's my little...
But you're right, like a player who can come in January and completely change things. Like there's this perception that is, I think, correct, that January is a difficult window to do anything in because... Clubs don't want to get rid of their biggest assets, and clubs don't really want to make huge outlays in January. That doesn't mean that you can't change your season with a player who comes in, as seen through that example back there. So, yeah, I think there are players who could. I'm sure there are players out there who could come in for Reading and really 100%. Help them to kick on even more. And so we'll see what happens.
We will. We are 5 days into the new year now. So the window is open for business. There's a few rumours flying around. Paul Mullin, I saw linked today.
Oh, okay.
Interesting signing. He's gone back to Wrexham from Wigan, ironically.
Do you know what I will say about our signings and what we can do in the transfer market? Do you feel that... I feel like part of what the Kamari Doyle questions are about is like, I don't think there's any chance that Kamari Doyle does not complete his loan with Reading, right? I'm almost 100% sure.
I don't see why Brighton would take him back at this point.
No, I think he's going to play the whole year with Reading. I think, especially because they've just shown that Savage is capable of playing in that 10 role, I think it's really hard to buy a player to go into that role until you know if you're going to outlay for Kamari Doyle at the end of the year, because I imagine there are some stipulations in that loan agreement that give Reading a first look at him, if they want to purchase after this year. So I think that's an issue. You can't really sign an attacking midfielder right now. Is centre-back the same thing because you've got Finley Burns in as a lone player and looks good and is probably not going to leave before the end of the year.
Well, Jacob's gone, so that's a loan space back into the squad. I'd
Right.
be gobsmacked if Omani stays. I
For
think
sure, for sure. I'm just wondering if those two players, those lone players playing in the squad in those positions mean that we're not going to sign in those positions. If you
yeah,
think that's the
potentially.
case.
And also, I guess the question to look out for over the next couple of weeks before we play again is what kind of signings we're making. Are they going to be loan signings, or are they're gonna bring in money for the long term in terms of bringing players in? So I think it's going to be interesting. It's been very hyped, whether or not that's intentional or by accident. But they put a lot of expectation on this window, and they will need to do something to show that they're serious and not just full of words, to be honest. So, it's all to play for in a transfer window. It's all to play for on a pitch as well. We're in the second half of the season now. 4.5 months until the end of the season officially in May. So
Any day now, May. It's coming up.
it's
The dog
coming. You
days.
listen, it's coming. I'm ready for some heat. I tell you, I'm fed up of this
Yeah,
weather.
me too.
But look, we're doing all we can. It's been a great festive period. I hope you've enjoyed the pods we put out as well. I wanted to be as consistent as possible. I'm looking at the time on this one. This is getting close to last week's, but we did the awards in the last episode. So hopefully you enjoyed those as well, and let us know if you agree, disagree, whatever with what we said. We will see you next time on episode 447. We will be back in some capacity, probably next Monday. We'll be next Monday because we're trying to get into a routine.
We'll work it out.
Hopefully we'll have a guest on of some description just to talk about all things Reading, and no game to review obviously, but there'll be plenty of things to talk about. So Ross, stay warm. -14, it's disgusting.
-14. It's not. I think it's going to get warmer the rest of this week, so you don't need to worry about it.
-13.
-13. Yeah, let me just make sure I'm not talking complete guff. No, yeah, it's going to be very, very cold later. So
Look, his heart's literally just sunk. If you can't see him, he's literally just crumpled into his microphone like a.
Do you want to know
broken
something
egg.
really bad, actually,
Go on then.
last thing I'll say about the cold today is my snowblower. I've been having an argument with my father-in-law for about.
I thought you were going to say having an argument with the snowblower. I was like, all right.
Yeah, I've had an argument with my snowblower. No, well, actually, I am. Yes, I've been having it. This is the last thing I'll bugger on about. Don't worry. But I've been having an argument with my father-in-law for like 4 years. He told me I bought a rubbish snowblower, and he's got one from the '80s that he's convinced will work forever, right? And I'm like, no, you got a piece of shit. Like I've got a modern thing. Wouldn't start this year, would it, though? My modern piece of nonsense.
Have that. That's the equivalent of an away fan when the goalie kicks the ball.
Yeah.
And you go,
So, unfortunately, if you need a snowblower for the massive snowstorm that you guys all experienced today,
2 centimetres predicted on Friday. Don't know. Okay.
2 centimeters. Okay. We don't even measure if it's that much. Do you know what we call that? Wintery mix. That's what we call it.
Yeah, do you know what? I read somewhere about wintry mix. Yeah, funny.
It's a wintry mix.
Anyway, listen, off you go. Go and have lunch or whatever you're supposed to be doing now.
Yeah.
Have a good evening. Thank you very much to everybody for listening to episode 446. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope your start to the new year has been really positive. We will see you again very soon on the Tilehurst podcast. I've been Ben Thomas. He has been Ross Webber. Come on, you R's.